Elias Kane woke up thinking he had died, which was not unusual for him lately, except this time the universe seemed to agree. His faceplate was cracked in a polite little spiral, like someone had tried to open it with care and then changed their mind halfway through. Cold vacuum hissed through the shuttle's skeleton around him, and somewhere deep inside his suit, the life support system made a sound like a tired accountant filing bankruptcy. "Status," Elias croaked. The suit AI responded instantly, cheerful as ever. "You are currently moderately alive. Recommendation: reduce expectations." "That's not a status report," he muttered. "It is emotionally accurate," the AI replied. "Physically, you are experiencing organ failure. Spiritually, you are experiencing denial." Elias tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough that sounded like metal scraping metal. Around him, the wreckage of the transport drifted slowly through Vera 9 debris field, spinning fragments of hull plating, frozen droplets of coolant, and a dead comms drone that kept blinking like it still had opinions. He shifted slightly and immediately regretted it. Something in his ribs protested in a language that definitely did not include consent. "Okay," he whispered. "New plan, not dying today." "Statistical probability disagrees," the AI said helpfully. "Would you like inspirational last words?" "No, I have. I lived as I died, statistically irrelevant." I said no. Outside the shattered hull, the darkness rippled. At first, Elias thought it was just radiation distortion. Then the distortion moved with intent. Something was descending through the wreckage field without a suit. "That's new," he said. The suit AI paused. "Unidentified life form detected." "Classification impossible." "That's also new," Elias replied. The figure drifted closer, cutting through floating debris like it was mildly inconvenient weather, human-shaped but not quite human. Long hair floating like ink in water. Pale skin threaded with faint glowing lines that pulsed softly, as if her body had its own quiet electricity. And ears long, elegant, almost too precise, like they had been designed by someone who hated subtlety and loved aesthetics. Elias blinked twice. "Okay, either I'm hallucinating or I died and went to a very expensive art museum." The figure reached the broken shuttle and stopped just outside the breach. Her eyes shifted color when they met his, blue, then gold, then something in between that made his brain briefly forget how eyes worked. She spoke. The language wasn't English, but it became English halfway through, like reality itself had decided translation was optional. "You are still functional," she said. Elias coughed again. "Debatable. Who are you?" A pause, then as if she were choosing the least confusing answer from a long list. "Lyra Vale." "Great," he said. "I'm Elias Kane. Currently regretting every life decision that led to floating in space like a broken vending machine." Her head tilted slightly. "Vending machine? Long story." She extended a hand through the breach. No glove, no suit, nothing. Just skin exposed to vacuum like it was a mildly chilly evening. Elias stared. "That's not normal." "I am not human," she said. "That part I noticed, yes." She reached inside anyway, touching his chest plate. The moment she made contact, something under her fingers lit up. His suit diagnostics, his broken organs, his failing blood oxygen, all of it reorganizing like a system forced to behave properly out of sheer embarrassment. The suit AI spoke in a suddenly respectful tone. "Unknown technology detected. I now consider reality negotiable." "Don't encourage it," Elias muttered. Within seconds, the burning in his chest faded. Not gone exactly, but rewritten, like pain had been edited into a footnote. Lyra withdrew her hand. "You will survive." "That's good," Elias said, because I was starting to feel like dying was becoming my personality. She looked at him longer than necessary. "That is inaccurate," she said. "Oh, you are already irritating." He almost laughed, then immediately regretted it again. "Okay, rude, I just got saved. I feel like I deserve at least medium politeness." Lyra tilted her head again. "Politeness is optional, not where I come from." "Where you come from," she said calmly. "You were dying alone in debris orbit." Elias opened his mouth, then closed it. "Fair point," he admitted. Behind her, something massive moved. A shape unfolded through the wreckage field, vast, organic, impossible. The ship didn't look built so much as grown, like someone had convinced biology and engineering to date and then never let them break up. It pulsed faintly, veins of light shifting under its surface. Elias squinted. "Is that your ride?" "That is the Seraph vein," Lyra said. "That sounds dramatic." "It is. Do I get to be impressed, or should I wait until I'm less injured?" "You may be both." A section of the ship opened like a wound that had learned manners. A corridor extended toward them, alive and breathing softly as if the ship was curious about its own guests. Elias stared at it. "I don't like living architecture." "You are currently inside dying architecture," Lyra replied. Point taken. She guided him forward without touching him again, but somehow he still felt directed, like gravity had voted in her favor. The corridor swallowed them, sealing behind with a soft, organic sound that made Elias briefly wish he had chosen literally any other hobby in life than space travel. Inside, the air was warm, too warm, like the ship had decided humans liked being gently baked. A soft voice echoed through the walls, not quite mechanical, not quite alive. New organism detected, the ship said. Designation. Lyra answered before Elias could. Companion unit. Elias stopped walking. Excuse me, the ship hummed approvingly. Companion unit accepted. I object, Elias said. Lyra glanced at him. On what grounds? I didn't apply for companionship. You were dying, she said. That's not consent. The ship seemed to consider this. Ethical uncertainty logged, it said. Proceeding anyway. Elias exhaled slowly. I hate space. Lyra led him deeper into the vessel. The walls pulsed gently, and at one point he swore he saw something like an eye blink inside the structure itself. He decided not to mention it because he liked his sanity in small, manageable portions. So, he said carefully, you just go around rescuing people from space wreckage with your living ship, and then what? You collect them? I do not collect, Lyra said. Right, I preserve. That sounds worse. She looked at him again. You are not damaged goods. Debatable. You are rare. Elias blinked. That's what collectors say before they put you on a shelf. A faint pause. That is an inefficient use of space, Lyra said seriously. Despite himself, Elias laughed. It hurt a little, but it still counted. They reached a chamber where light floated like slow-moving water. Medical structures unfolded from the walls as they entered, reacting to Lyra's presence like she was a key rather than a guest. Elias sat down carefully. Okay, honest question. Yes, am I being rescued, kidnapped, or adopted? Lyra considered this with unsettling seriousness. Yes, those are different answers. For humans, she said. He leaned back. I feel like I should be more alarmed. You will adjust. I don't want to adjust. That is also typical. A pause settled between them, filled only by the soft breathing of the ship. Elias looked at her properly for the first time. The glowing markings under her skin shifted faintly as she moved, like data flowing beneath glass. Her expression was calm, but not cold, observing, measuring. As if he was a problem she had already decided she would solve. So what happens now? He asked. Lyra stepped closer. You recover, she said, and then, her eyes flickered again, blue then gold. Then you belong aboard the Seraph Vane. Elias stared at her for a long moment. The suit AI, sensing emotional instability, whispered gently into his ear, recommendation, laughter or screaming. He chose laughter. Okay, he said. Just so we're clear, that is the creepiest hospital discharge plan I have ever heard in my life. Lyra tilted her head slightly, as if genuinely curious. I will improve clarity in future statements. Please do, Elias said. Preferably in the direction of you are free to leave at any time. Lyra thought about that. I will study this concept. That's not reassuring, but she was already turning away, the living ship responding to her like a thought finishing itself. And as Elias sat there, bruised, repaired, and increasingly uncertain whether survival had actually improved his situation, he realized one thing: he was no longer alone in space, which, unfortunately, did not feel like freedom. Not even a little. Elias woke up to the uncomfortable realization that he had been medically rebuilt by something that did not understand the concept of personal boundaries. He sat up too fast and immediately regretted it. The room responded by gently adjusting gravity, as if the ship had noticed his mistake and decided to help him feel it more slowly next time. Okay, he muttered, so the ship is passive-aggressive. The suit AI chimed in. Correction, the ship is attentive, you are the one being difficult. Traitor, Elias whispered. Across the chamber, Lyra stood near a floating cluster of luminous instruments that shifted shape whenever she moved her fingers. She didn't look surprised that he was awake. In fact, she looked mildly disappointed he had survived without additional drama. You are stabilized, she said. That's great, Elias replied. I feel like I got rebuilt by a very confident vending machine. I do not understand vending machines, Lyra said. You would hate them. They ignore you until you put money in, then they give you disappointment in a can. Lyra processed this. I will study vending machines later. Please don't prioritize that over my medical autonomy. She stepped closer, and the ship responded subtly, lighting pathways beneath her feet like it wanted to make sure she never tripped emotionally or physically. You attempted movement beyond safe recovery limits, she said. I was sitting up. That is movement. That is existing. Existing can be dangerous. Elias stared at her. That is the most depressing thing I've ever heard from someone with glowing alien eyebrows. Her ears shifted slightly. It might have been confusion or curiosity. With her, it was hard to tell. You are resistant to recovery protocols, she said. I am resistant to being treated like furniture. A pause. Furniture is stable, Lyra replied. That's not helping. She tilted her head. You are healed. You may now continue functioning. That sounds like you're rebooting a computer. You are biologically similar. I am not a computer. You have a nervous system that produces unpredictable error responses. That's called personality. Noted, Elias exhaled slowly. He was about to respond when the ship's internal voice interrupted again. Companion unit, it said politely. I still object to that label, Elias muttered. Objection logged, the ship replied. Ignored cool love democracy. Lyra turned slightly. You should eat. Is that another order or a suggestion? It is necessary. I don't like how confidently you say things like that. A section of the wall opened and a tray emerged carrying something that looked like glowing gel pretending to be food. It pulsed faintly like it was nervous about being eaten. Elias stared at it. No, he said immediately. It will sustain you, Lyra said. It looks like someone liquefied a glow stick's emotional breakdown. It is nutrient synthesis derived from stellar algae. That is worse somehow. You will consume it. That sounded like a threat. Lyra blinked once. It was not intended as threat, not helping your case. He reluctantly took the tray. The gel wobbled like it had expectations. He tried a small bite. It tasted like mint, electricity, and disappointment trying its best. He swallowed. Okay, he said slowly. I hate that it's good. Lyra watched him carefully. Your reaction indicates acceptance. No. My reaction indicates confusion and betrayal. Still acceptance. The ship hummed softly as if pleased. Nutrition compatibility confirmed, it said. Companion unit is functional. I need a new word for functional that doesn't sound like I'm a broken appliance, Elias muttered. Lyra stepped back slightly. You are recovering faster than expected. Yeah, well, I've been in worse situations. Worse than near death in vacuum? Emotionally, yes, that made her pause, a longer pause than usual. You humans reference emotional distress as if it is physical damage, she said. That's because it feels like physical damage. That is inefficient. Welcome to humanity. For the first time, something like curiosity sharpened in her expression. You are inconsistent, she said. That's kind of our thing. It complicates prediction. Also our thing. A faint flicker passed under her skin markings, like light rearranging itself. I chose correctly, she said quietly. Elias frowned. Chose what? You. The word landed heavier than intended. He leaned back slightly. Yeah, I'm still not loving that phrasing. Lyra didn't respond immediately. Instead, she raised one hand slightly and the ship's interior responded. A section of wall dissolved into a soft holographic field. Stars appeared. But not the stars Elias knew. These were mapped routes, shifting lanes of light, entire regions of space marked with symbols and flowing geometry. Civilizations weren't represented by planets, but by networks like someone had turned the galaxy into a living circuit board. Elias stared. Okay, that is way too organized for space. This is the Illyrian navigational continuum, Lyra said. That sounds like something you say right before reality stops making sense. It is accurate. A cluster of pathways pulsed red in the distance. Elias pointed. What's that? Lyra hesitated. Restricted zones, she said. That sounded like you didn't want to answer. You are correct. He squinted. That's not reassuring. It is classified. I'm not great with classified things. I tend to open them accidentally. I will restrict access. That's also not reassuring. The ship spoke again, softly amused. Human curiosity level high. Risk factor elevated. Hey, Elias said. I resemble that remark. Lyra stepped closer to the projection and the galaxy shifted again, this time showing something else. Threads connecting ships, individuals, encounters. One thread pulsed between Lyra and Elias. Bright, active, irreversible. Elias pointed at it. What is that? Lyra did not answer immediately. Instead, she said, you are stabilized within my care designation. That doesn't explain glowing destiny string number 1. The ship answered instead. Binding connection detected, it said. Classification, Illyrian rescue bond. Elias slowly turned to Lyra. You want to run that by me again, but this time in words that don't sound like I've been legally downloaded. Lyra studied the projection. In my species, she said carefully, to save a life is to establish ownership continuity. Elias blinked. I'm sorry, ownership what? It is not exploitation, she added quickly. It is responsibility transfer. That is just ownership with better branding. Lyra frowned slightly. Humans resist responsibility structures. We also resist being owned. A pause. That is noted, she said. That's not comforting. The ship chimed in. Companion unit exhibits rejection response to bond classification. Yeah, I do. Lyra turned toward him fully now. You misunderstand, she said. This is not imprisonment. Feels like it. It is protection. Also feels like imprisonment. A longer silence followed, then Elias sighed. Let me guess, if you die I inherit your emotional tax debt or something? That is not accurate. Good. It is more complex. Of course it is. Lyra's voice softened slightly. Among Illyrians, isolation led to extinction risk. We prevent loss by ensuring no life is abandoned after preservation, so you save someone and then you can't let them go. Yes, that is aggressively intense. It is survival logic. Elias rubbed his face. Your survival logic is giving me a headache I didn't know I could have in space. The ship gently adjusted lighting as if trying to soothe him. Human distress detected, it said, initiating calming environment. The room turned slightly warmer. Elias immediately pointed. Don't baby me. It is therapeutic, the ship replied. I don't need therapy from a haunted spaceship. Lyra watched him again, and for the first time there was something uncertain behind her calm. You are reacting strongly, she said. Yeah, because I don't like being told I belong to someone. I did not say belong, you literally did. I said designation continuity. That is worse. She paused, then very quietly said, I did not intend harm. Elias looked at her. For a moment the humor drained just slightly. I believe you, he said, that's the problem. Lyra's ears shifted subtly again, like she was processing something that didn't fit her internal logic. You are not behaving as expected, she said. Story of my life, I expected gratitude. I am grateful. Then why resistance? Elias exhaled. Because I didn't agree to any of this. Lyra looked at him for a long time, then she said, consent was not part of survival protocol. Yeah, Elias muttered, I noticed. The ship dimmed slightly, as if listening too closely. Outside, somewhere far beyond the hull, the galaxy kept moving, quiet, indifferent, and full of things that did not care whether humans or Illyrians understood each other. And inside the seraph vein, two very different definitions of saving a life sat in the same silence, neither of them entirely sure what came next, except that neither of them seemed willing to let go first. Elias had learned by now that space did not respect personal plans, emotional readiness, or paperwork, especially paperwork. The seraph vein trembled as it exited a rupture in normal space, folding reality back into something resembling order. The transition felt like being squeezed through a thought that wasn't fully finished. Elias grabbed a support rail, missed, grabbed it again, and tried not to think about how many times his life had come down to grab something before physics changes its mind. Status, he muttered. The suit AI responded immediately. You are alive, unfortunately. That tone is new. I am adapting. Stop growing. Ahead of them, the stars reassembled into structured geometry, vast lanes of luminous pathways like someone had replaced the night sky with an enormous circuit diagram. Ships moved along them in silence, leaving faint trails like glowing ink. Lyra stood beside him without touching the controls. She rarely did. The ship responded to her presence as if she was already part of its nervous system. We have arrived, she said. Where exactly is here? Elias asked. The Illyrian core convergence. That sounds like a place where I am about to be judged or disassembled. Both are possible outcomes. Great, love options. The ship's interior shifted. Light folded inward, forming a vast opening. Beyond it waited a structure suspended in the atmosphere of a gas giant, glowing cities layered in impossible architecture. Towers hung upside down beneath gravity fields that didn't seem to agree with each other. Entire districts floated like thoughts that had forgotten where to land. Elias stared. Okay, that's excessive. It is efficient, Lyra said. Everything you do is apparently efficient and emotionally terrifying. A pause. That is not inaccurate, she admitted. As they descended, Elias noticed something strange. No alarms, no weapons locks, no defensive posture. Just observation, like the entire civilization was watching them think. You didn't mention the welcome committee, he said. There is no committee. That feels worse. They docked inside a structure that was too large to be called a station and too alive to be called architecture. The walls pulsed faintly, recognizing Lyra instantly. When Elias stepped out behind her, the environment shifted subtly, as if recalibrating how much reality it needed to allocate to him. Human detected, a voice echoed through the chamber. Yeah, Elias said, I'm here legally, emotionally, if not literally. Lyra shot him a glance. Do not improvise during formal evaluation. I don't improvise. I survive creatively. A group of Illyrians entered. They looked human-adjacent in the way mirrors look like windows. Long ears, luminous markings, controlled movements that suggested emotions were something carefully stored rather than expressed. Their eyes lingered on Elias like he was an unsolved equation that had walked into the room by mistake. One of them spoke. Lyra Vale, you return with an unregistered human. Hi, Elias said politely. Lyra ignored him. He is under my binding designation. A ripple went through the group. Elias leaned slightly toward her. That phrase is doing a lot of work again. Do not interrupt, she whispered. Noted, interrupting silently. The Illyrian Council formed a semicircle. Light structures above them displayed shifting data, Lyra's lineage, travel history, violations flagged in red. Elias squinted. You people really like dramatic holograms. A counselor spoke. You violated core continuity law by forming an unsanctioned bond with a non-Illyrian life form. Lyra stood perfectly still. I chose to preserve him. That is not the issue, another replied. The issue is attachment. Elias raised a hand slightly. Hi, I would like to formally say I am also uncomfortable being referred to as an issue. No one responded. Okay, cool, I'll sit back down emotionally. The council continued. Humans destabilize Illyrian emotional equilibrium. Elias muttered, wow, rude, they create dependency loops. That one's actually fair, he said quietly. Lyra finally spoke. He is not a dependency, a pause. Then one of the elders leaned forward. Then release him. Silence, the word landed differently than before. Release. Elias felt it before Lyra even moved because she didn't. For the first time since he met her, she hesitated. The ship's presence flickered through the station, faint and watching. Elias cleared his throat. Okay, just to clarify, this is the part where I'm supposed to dramatically declare freedom or something, right? Lyra didn't look at him. That is one option, she said. That sounded rehearsed. I have considered it. Comforting. The council pressed again. Sever the bond, return to Illyrian status. Lyra's markings pulsed faintly. Elias sighed. You know, for a species that's obsessed with emotional control, you guys are really intense about telling other people what to feel. A few eyes shifted toward him. He shrugged. Just saying, not trying to start an interstellar incident. Again, Lyra finally turned to him, and something was different, not in her face, in the space between her certainty and uncertainty. You are not property, she said quietly. Elias blinked. That is the first time you've said that without sounding like you were quoting a manual. I am correcting. The council reacted immediately. Clarify. Lyra inhaled. I refuse severance. The chamber went still. Even Elias stopped joking for half a second. That, he whispered, sounds like a big decision. It is irreversible, Lyra said. A counselor responded sharply. You would abandon your lineage, I would redefine it. You risk collapse of Illyrian binding law structure. I understand. Elias stepped forward slightly. Hey, I just want to point out, this is the part where I usually get blamed for things I didn't design. Lyra spoke without looking at him. You did not cause this. That's nice, historically inaccurate but nice. The council shifted again. Then the human must be contained. Elias raised a hand. Hey, why is that always the next step in alien government meetings? A new voice echoed across the chamber. Because containment is inefficient. A larger projection formed above them. The Illyrian governance AI, it spoke calmly. Observation, Illyrian-human interaction has produced measurable emotional divergence. Conclusion, humans are not threats, they are catalysts. Elias frowned. I do not like being called a catalyst. That sounds like I explode something important. Lyra looked up. You are saying humans are compatible. In limited cases, the AI replied. The council erupted in quiet disagreement. Lyra turned toward Elias. You were not wrong, she said. About what part? Ownership language. Elias rubbed his face. I was hoping we would never return to that topic. I must correct it. Please do. She stepped closer. For the first time, she did not reach for him as if deciding something. She simply stood beside him. I do not own you, she said clearly. Elias blinked. Okay, good progress. A pause. I want you, she added. He immediately sighed. Of course you do. That is not ownership. That sounded suspiciously like ownership adjacent. She frowned slightly. I want you freely. Elias looked at her for a long moment, then he glanced at the council. At the ship's distant awareness, at the impossible city floating in the gas giant's atmosphere, then back at her. You're really bad at this whole emotional independence thing, he said. I am learning. That's terrifyingly honest. A beat. Then Elias laughed, not nervous this time, not defensive, just real. Okay, he said, here's my counteroffer. Lyra tilted her head. You stop treating me like property. I have already stopped. And I stopped pretending I didn't choose to stay. Silence. The council waited, the ship waited. Even the AI seemed to wait, which was new and mildly concerning. Elias extended his hand. Not ownership, he said, not bond. Not whatever cosmic contract you people invented. Lyra looked at it. Slowly she took it. And what is this? She asked. Elias shrugged. A really bad interstellar relationship I'm apparently emotionally committed to. The Illyrian AI spoke softly. Status updated, voluntary alignment confirmed. The council did not object, because for the first time there was nothing to object to.